So one of the things I talk about in my book, Peace Beyond the Splinter, is this idea of the thug thoughts that hammer us. You know, those thoughts, the negative chatter. I used to be the queen of the negative chatter. Coupled with the anxiety, I would just be a shell of myself, like literally. But as I pursue personal development and growth, I wrote this book, and I'm hoping it will be your inspiration for 2025. On page 57 in my book, I talked about the thug thoughts. One of mine was, what if I go crazy? What if I have schizophrenia? I mean, this thought would just go over and over and over and over in my mind. And then I'd read the scripture, and the scripture will say, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed fast or stayed on you because they trust in you. And then I'll use a prayer. God, I don't believe that that is ever going to happen, that is ever going to stop. But I know you're bigger than my thoughts. You created my ability to think. Show me, help me, because I do not know how to keep my mind on you. You know, today I run a business. I went from this to running an IT consultancy that sells to the government. 13 years ago, this is on page 15. 13 years ago, I was an employee at an information technology firm. My boss gave me $1,000 bonus for the Christmas holiday. I was ecstatic. I was also very naive. I should have been enraged. And up until that point, my boss had pocketed $4 million over a period of 2 years on my back. He cashed in on my genius to attract clients to his dilapidated existence. My boss recognized my giftedness to get clients. I did too, but I could not translate it into a vision for my own financial independence, even though the tools stood out like an erection. At least I have a job, I'd murmured to myself, but my psyche was dissatisfied. But what could I do? At least at Probe Consulting, when an anxiety episode rocked my day, I could go home and return after a few days. At most, I was docked some hours. $350 a week before taxes to live in New York City is pathetic. I managed to work 40 hours. How much more so when my hours were reduced? Les Brown, one of my favorite motivational speakers, once said, you can't see a picture when you're in the frame. He saw me beyond the dark circles under my eyes. Brian, that's my husband, saw my promise. And he helped me to start a business that I've been running now for 18 years. I cannot communicate enough the power of mental transformation. So the scripture says, sow your seed in the morning, and at evening, let not your hands be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. Repeat and recycle as necessary. Remember, your mind must be reprogrammed. That's on page 63 of my book. I am still in the journey, but let me tell you something. I can't say enough about what it has done for me to subscribe to a growth plan. It has transformed my life, literally. And I encourage you to not just think about it, pray about it, ruminate about it. Instead, get on with it. I needed a strategy. And let me tell you about my strategy. I would get this really dark thought. I had many of them all day long. Commit suicide, jump over a bridge, your skin is rotting. I mean, yeah. I would get the thought, and it would literally beat me like a baseball bat. Beat me over the head, because it would just keep coming, like a thug, you know? You know how thugs get down? Yeah. And I lived like that for many years, to the tune of flunking out of college and having to have my grades scrubbed, to the tune of having to leave work to go home because I just couldn't focus, to the tune of not being able to watch a single show on TV because I just couldn't focus. Yeah, it stole my moments, hijacked my promise, robbed me of my peace. So I'd recognize the thoughts once I got on the strategy that I developed for myself. And then I'd find a scripture to fight that thought that was thugging me out, thugging out my mind. And then I would pray through the thoughts. I had to find the scripture that would fight that thought. And let me tell you, sometimes I didn't feel like it was working, honestly. Sometimes I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be in a mental institution. But God said no. I have plans to prosper you, Angela, and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. I believe it. I believe it now. But back then, believing it was so hard, but I stayed on the journey. We all have things in our lives that are fighting our promise, fighting our possibility, fighting our potential, fighting our purpose. But unless you have a strategy to transform mentally, you will be casualty of this life. Leaving this earth without having discovered all that God put inside of you. Leaving with your music still inside of you. Leaving with your dreams crushed. Don't you deserve so much better? I believe that your transformation is waiting on you as well. You deserve it. So go ahead, schedule your consultation to get on your growth journey. All right? Once again, the book is Peace Beyond the Splinter. Reclaim your promise of peace and profit from anxiety's grip through prayer.